Welcome to The Explainer. We all get one life, but what does it actually mean to not waste it? Today, we're diving into the powerful ideas of John Piper, a man who built his entire life around answering that single, really urgent question.
It all started with this, a poem. Imagine being 17 years old, looking out at the rest of your life and feeling this deep sense of terror. The fear of getting to the end and realizing it didn't count for anything. That feeling, right there, became the engine for his entire life's work.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with that big, life-defining question, then walk through the three core discoveries that shaped his answer, and finally, we'll see how it all comes together in this radical challenge for how to live a life that truly matters. All right, let's get into it. The whole journey kicks off with what he calls an awakening. That sudden, heavy realization that you only get one shot at this life. There are just no do-overs. And you can see here, for Piper, the really big pieces of the puzzle fell into place during this critical 7-year window. He argues that pretty much everything he's learned since then has just been exploring these same foundational truths he figured out back then. And this single question, this was the engine driving his entire search. He wasn't so much concerned with where did we come from as he was with where are we going. It was all about the ultimate purpose. And, it was an all-consuming need to get it, to understand the point of, everything, from the grandeur of the universe right down to the annoyance of mosquitoes. He wanted to know the ultimate reason for all of it. So this leads us to the first major piece of the puzzle he uncovered. And what's so interesting is that it wasn't actually about his purpose. Not at first. It was about understanding God's purpose for creating everything in the first place. This first discovery is, and I'm not exaggerating, the bedrock for everything that follows. It's a huge shift in perspective. To find our purpose, we first have to understand the universe's purpose. So he landed on this core idea. God's ultimate goal for everything, from creation to human history, is to display his own glory. In other words, to put on display just how supremely valuable and amazing he is. And this right here, this is the twist that changes everything. The idea is that God is most honored, not by us just doing our duty or checking boxes, but by our deep, soul-level satisfaction and delight in him above everything else. Our joy in him is what reflects his true value. Okay, so if the whole point is to find our ultimate satisfaction in God, there's a huge problem. There's this massive obstacle standing in the way for every single one of us. So his second discovery then had to be about this obstacle. What is this fundamental problem, and is there any way to actually overcome it? This lays out the core conflict perfectly. On one side, you've got the obstacle, our natural desire to be our own gods, to call the shots and reject his authority. And on the other side, the solution, the idea that Jesus' death on the cross absorbs the just consequence for that rebellion. So, here's the really mind-bending part. In solving the problem of human sin, Jesus doesn't just clear the path for us to see God's glory. The very act of rescuing us becomes the most brilliant, the most supreme display of that glory. So let's get to that third and final discovery. This is where it all gets intensely practical and, frankly, pretty radical. How do you actually live this stuff out day to day? This final piece of the puzzle is the proof. It answers the question, what kind of life most powerfully shows the world that God is supremely valuable? And, the answer might surprise you. So what Piper argues is this. When a person can hold on to their joy and keep loving other people even when life is hard, even in the middle of suffering, it's the most powerful testimony possible. It proves that their ultimate treasure isn't in their comfort or their circumstances, but in God. So, after all that, what does this mean for actually not wasting your life? Well, it boils down to a really clear 3-part application of these discoveries. This is basically the game plan. It's how these big ideas move out of your head and into your life. First, you see the truth of it all. Then you feel its worth. You're satisfied by it. And finally, you live in a way that proves it to everyone around you. When you boil it all down, the entire message lands right here on this single, powerful idea. The meaning of your life is found in treasuring God,
through Christ, so much that it becomes obvious to everyone that he is worth more to you than your own life. And that brings us to the final, really challenging question. It shifts the whole thing from Piper's journey to yours. So, what about you? What in your life, what will prove that Jesus is more precious than life itself?